page, and that's facebook.com/Foundation for Life Church and facebook.com/SPR Live FM. Now, let's join Pastor Carl and me, Clement Humphrey.
Communicating the gospel through music and spoken word via the internet. Streaming Praise Radio.
There we are. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for locking into streamingpraiseradio.com. Do hope that you can hear us clearly and is hearing us clearly, because we seem to be having so many catching up to do and some what I call technical things that we're still trying to sort out and make sure that it works right.
It's coming together.
It's coming together. It looks like it's fine. I tested the whole thing out.
Well, let's go.
It sounds right to me. It looks right to me. But in the meantime, in the between time, you're trying to figure out, are we still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
We're still here, and we're live, and we're coming to you straight from Streaming Praise Radio Studios. For those of you that are listening to us on Facebook, we thank you so much for locking in, and do hope that you will enjoy the show. As you know, last week we had quite an interesting show. Quite an interesting show, and it's amazing enough that I heard a commentary this week actually in pertaining to marriage and what the young lady had said pertaining to the marriage part of things. She I don't think they're hearing us live on the radio. I'm not sure why. I'm assuming they are, but I'm not sure they are hearing us. But I am looking at everything, and it seems perfectly normal and okay. So
we'll be able to tell by some of the, I guess.
That's pretty soon. Facebook is hearing us.
All right. Facebook's hearing us.
Facebook's hearing us. So if I have to excuse myself momentarily to make sure that we do get it right, I'm going to do that. But I'm not quite sure why that is so or why it's not so. But as you know, things do happen sometimes, and you're trying to figure out why. So I'll put a pause for the call here and see if it makes a difference. Yes, it does. Yeah.
Instead of that
one. It just pause for the cause, and it makes a difference. So now I think folks are hearing us live on the radio as well. So yeah, there we go.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this: it's important that this subject to be communicated and taught and discussed, because, as you know, even our own governments are doing whatever they can to minimize the violence to women. So I just heard that in the news just the last couple of days.
Right.
And so those efforts, as noble as they are and as necessary as they are, we could say the church can help in that regard if we teach marriage right, so people enter these relationships right, and hence women will be treated the way they should be treated.
Correct.
See that? But if we're in the dark as well as the world, then we're just adding to the problem instead of minimizing it, in some cases removing the problem. And so I really believe, of course, God made man, he made woman, and so he wants us to have the best of lives and the best of relationships, and and know how to truly treat one another in a way that's beneficial for both parties. And so God's plan is never oppression. Okay? It's never oppression, and it's never to beat down, to condemn, to manipulate, to hold in fear, and like I said, oppression and slavery and servitude. It's God's big on people being liberated and being able to use their will to love right and to treat one another right. And so that's why we're addressing this subject, or one of the main reasons we're addressing this area, because it's so important.
It really is. But the news thing that you probably don't know, well, you do know, but I read this article, I think it was on Friday, and I wanted to share it with you on Saturday, but I didn't get a chance to hand it over to you.
The meeting.
Yeah, the meeting, yeah. The article actually, in talking about families and so forth, I thought, this is so interesting. It's talking about the same-sex marriage families. And this one woman was speaking on behalf, she says, everybody speaks on behalf of the same sex and all this kind of stuff, but nobody speaks on behalf of us, the children, who have to go through this. She said, I long for a father, because when I went to school, I saw my friends having fathers and the taunts that they got. So I longed for a daddy's hug. And I thought to myself, isn't this interesting? And she says, everybody else speaks about their agenda, but they never speak on behalf of the children. And in most cases, this is what ends up happening.
That's excellent. That is
the children are being left out. And so when she said that, I thought to myself, it's a touchy situation to talk about. People get offended. And we're not trying to offend anyone. We're not trying to tell anyone, you live your life the way you want to live your life, but at the end, we still have to give an account to God for the way you live your life. Bottom line. But if I were to, which happened to me actually, discipline my child for whatever actions he might have done, and I spank him, as we knew from the West Indies and probably from the old England days, the thing is that they want to throw me to the wolves and throw me in court because they call it child abuse. What do we call this? When a child who's grown up is finally saying, this is how I felt. It's not a form of child abuse?
I got you, yeah. So they were, just real quick, they were denied what they knew inside they desired.
And she actually said, every child deserves the right to have the love of both parents. She said, I think when she was about 13, she's from Australia. When she was 13, that's when she met her father for the first time, because he was just a sperm donor. And I thought to myself, interesting.
Now, see, that's more usually the case, though, is these experiments. That's what I'm going to call them.
Yeah.
These social experiments that are put forth and promoted by those in high authority. And the thing is this, we often don't see the fruit of them.
No.
Till years down the line. So that's when now some of these intelligent people, they'll say, oh, we made a mistake. Oh,
do they ever
we didn't really realize?
They don't really
what I'm saying is, when they look at the evidence, when it's all come back, well, see, then the amount of lives that have been ruined, as a result of these failed experiments. But I'm going to address this thing. Let's go there real quick.
Right, go ahead.
Because it's really interesting. I was looking at this a little bit. In Genesis chapter 2, the Amplified Bible says it probably the best. It says, in fact, let me turn you to that, because it says it so well. I think to do it justice, we do need to look at it. So in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, it says this. The Lord said, it's not good that the man should be alone. I will make a helper fit for him. I'm going to read it from the Amplified. I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, here it is. I will make him a helper, one who balances him, a counterpart, who is suitable and complementary for him. So now he's talking about the male man.
Right.
Now he says, now I'm going to make a helper, someone suitable, one who balances him, one who complements him, one who's a counterpart. So that means he wasn't going to make someone exactly identical to him in every way.
Correct.
He was going to she would complement him.
Right.
So now the next one down, it says, so Adam, when it talks about the creation of the woman, and they came together. But what I wanted to emphasize there is this: God didn't complement him with another male man,
No.
or else he wouldn't need him,
Correct.
right?
Right.
He complemented him with someone who was a female man, who would be different,
Correct.
which means both would need one another. He didn't need another male man because he already was a male man.
Yeah.
He needed someone who would complement him. So that's why I like the language here. It says someone who balances him, someone who's a counterpart.
Correct.
And so that's why that helps us even in the area of marriage. While we know it's God's best, his intention is that, well, his plan is for males to marry females, is because a man doesn't need another man in marriage.
No.
And children don't need, that's what you're going back to your point that you
Right.
started, and children to be raised correctly, they don't need another male. They need a male and a female. So the male and female, they balance each other out.
Correct.
They complement one another. And so that shows, just like how they complement one another in parenting then, and that's what you're speaking
Right.
to, that younger woman now, she's saying, I needed my father. Now that's not a negative towards the wife. The mother did as much as she could, but she could only do so much. She could only impart certain things.
Correct.
So she was saying, her heart was saying, now can you imagine little children probably saying this in different ways that's not being heard by adults who are older, that, you know what, they're crying out in some ways, maybe not as discernible, that, you know what, yes, my mom's beautiful, my mom's wonderful, but there's that cry, I'm crying out for what she can't give me,
Absolutely.
that only her father can
Correct.
give to her.
Correct.
And that's why, again, building marriages right and understanding marriage is really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I just wanted
You
to
know,
touch on that. as you-
well, I'm glad you mentioned that, and just to clear up a little bit, because people get, as the old saying says, get their knickers in a knot when you make certain statements. Oh, they're bashing us, and no, we're not bashing anybody. We're just simply trying to state a fact. I mean, just like divorces hurts children,
Of course.
and Christian gets divorces too. I was one of those, and it hurt my children, right? But we have to take, as my mom would say, take that beam out of your eyes and see the truth. You gotta stand up for the truth and say, you know what, we were wrong, and we gotta do something to adjust this and make it work. So during the period of time when my divorce was going through and the separation took place and the children were young, and we were constantly having this back and forth bickering, so to speak, and one day we came to a decision, hey, you know what we're doing is not really hurting us, it's hurting the children. If we don't come together as a force, how are we going to raise these children properly? And we decided that, listen, let's stop the bickering and let's focus on raising our children. Regardless of whatever, that can't be separated. Let's raise our children. So going back to the same-sex marriages and so forth, it's not that we're bashing anyone. We're just saying children are lacking something, and now that they're older, they're crying out. They're saying, and she's not the only one. There's many of us who have said,
Yeah, that's just one voice.
she that has really agreed with her, saying that this was true, even with two dads, and like they wish they had a mommy, especially girls thinking, I wish I had a mommy who could teach me how to dress and all my feminine moods that I went through, because no matter what, a man, whether he wants to pretend he is or not, or go through the sex change, will not have those same physicalities as a woman does, in the sense of having those emotional upheavals, those times when she has her regular monthlies, those times when she probably even go through a menopause stage. Like, how can a man tell a woman how she's going to feel when he's never built that way, right? And again, we're not bashing anybody, we're just saying, see for what it is.
But the thing is this, we don't have to be overly apologizing for it. The thing what I like about you is this, one of the things, is your honesty. So we could say this then, okay, no, if we'll be honest.
Yeah.
So you've been very honest in just me and getting to know more about you, is that we could say, okay, then are we bashing people who've been divorced.
No, we're not.
No.
No. But you know how... Well,
Yeah, I understand what I'm saying. I'm just trying to say that you've been very honest,
Yeah.
but you've been honest enough to say, not to pretend as if, well, or to say, well, divorce is okay then.
Mm-hmm.
You've been realizing, no, it was not only wrong, and my part in allowing that to happen, but also look at what it did to my children.
Right. Absolutely.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're being very honest. Now we're being very honest. But also we've got to address the thing is this. We're speaking from the perspective of God's Word.
Correct.
God is the manufacturer. And all we're saying is then, from what you're saying, what you started, is that the same-sex relationship is not a natural relationship.
No, it's not. It's
Okay,
not.
and so if it's not natural, you're going to run into a whole lot of problems, things that are seen and things that are unforeseen.
Yeah.
But the ramifications are going to be seen a bit later on. And so that's why we're big on marriage the way God made it. But even to function and to get the best out of God's design, we've got to do it His way.
Absolutely.
Or else we'll be violating certain things. And something I think you might have touched on last week, which is a great point, so I'll pick up here, is that both parties, the husband and wife, they're putting into that garden.
Correct.
And we talk that now.
Yeah, right.
So you're the gardener amongst us. So, we are putting into that garden. And so if as the husband, I'm putting in bitterness, unforgiveness, hate, if then what am I going to get? I'm going to get a harvest of that.
Correct.
See
Absolutely.
that? If the wife is putting in similar things, unforgiveness, dishonor, disrespect, then we're not going to have a healthy relationship. And so this goes for whether people are Christians or non-Christians. If we violate these laws, if you will, then we're going to reap what we sow.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we've been... Sorry, go ahead.
No, just to pick up from what you were saying, last week, somebody else who had listened after the fact, because they couldn't afford to listen live, and just let me make a quick interjection here. For those of you who are listening on via Facebook, and you probably may be making comments right now, I'm finding it very difficult to, I don't know if it was a system, if it's Facebook, what is happening, but there is a bit of a lag, and Facebook is not bringing us up the way we ought to come up. I don't know if it's the computers or not. But anyways, just going back to what I was saying before, the person was making a commentary towards the fact that saying, as we were talking about planting. So her comments was to me, when you say planting, are you talking planting from both sides of planting? And I said, okay, we're talking about seeds. And for the man, first of all, as I said, as Pastor interjected, if we're talking about the seed, and the man has to do the planting, and he's the one that goes out and finds the wife don't find the husband, then it's the man who's really planting the seed, and he's planting his generation, so to speak, and his lineage, so to speak, and he has to find the right ground. In a case like that, we're talking about, are we going to pick the right person to be able to create that perfect garden or that beautiful garden? Now, my new garden has weeds, and from time to time you got to pull these weeds out to have a good garden. So I was trying to make that that commentary straightforward to them so that they can understand that. So so hopefully that we can pick up from there so that they too can get a grasp and understanding that what we're talking about in terms of the seeds and the gardens and so forth.
Yeah, so that we're just making an analogy that just like what you put in a garden naturally is what you're going to get.
Exactly.
You plant tomatoes, you're going to get tomatoes, right?
Right.
If you don't plant tomatoes, don't expect to get tomatoes.
Exactly.
And so let's get back to this, as you said then. We were talking about, there's two sides to this then.
Correct.
That it's a husband and wife. The two shall become one flesh, or they become one. They're planting one garden, they're building one life.
Correct.
So they've come together. And so we were looking last week at what a wife needs.
Correct.
Remember that? So what
Yes.
a wife needs. And so we said this, we began. Number one thing the wife needs is we call it a permanent covenant commitment. So in short, she needs a committed husband.
Correct.
So that, can you imagine the mental anguish a wife faces if she wakes up in the morning or goes to bed at night and doesn't know if her husband is committed to her, if he's going to be there tomorrow, the next day, next week, next year. So she needs somebody who's committed to her. Now, none of us are perfect. And so the thing is this, a wife needs a committed man.
Correct.
A committed husband. That even in spite of her quirks or foibles or failings, differences, whatever, just like how husbands have challenges, that you've got a husband, this wife has a husband who is committed to her.
Right.
That's number one. Then we said number two, just we're not going to repeat everything, but number two, we talked about what a wife needs is love, affirmation, and affection. Right? So every wife needs that. So again, and think about this, Claremont. It doesn't matter. This woman could be the most, the brightest, smartest woman, really top of the corporate ladder, highly intelligent, got it all together. But in that marriage relationship, the husband needs to make sure that he is supplying love, affection, and affirmation.
Correct.
And we're saying this is not just a recommendation. This is not a suggestion. Just as your garden needs water, right? Those plants need water. Your wife needs a constant, daily supply of love, affection, and affirmation.
Correct.
We're good?
Yeah.
So we said this. We left off on that point. And it's interesting. We said Ephesians 5 talks about husbands, love your wives. And I might have said this last week. That's really, he said, as Christ loved the church. Now think about that.
Pretty difficult.
And gave himself. So that's a self-sacrificing love, right? And the thing is this, though, the beautiful thing is this. We can tell then from that, just that one passage of Scripture, that God's intention, there are people who aren't even born again who've been committed to one another and have had very good relationships.
Correct.
That must mean then God has an even higher quality of relationship for the Christian. Because he says now, you've got his love in you. Think about that. That love is not a selfish love.
No, it's not.
That love will go to it is so self-sacrificing that Jesus is the only example for that love. So could you imagine as husbands, the kind of marriages we could have and the kind of life or kind of, we could say, supply we could be putting into our wives if we really use or tap into or yield to that God kind of love, which he says, listen, love your wife as Christ loved the church.
Correct.
So that's stronger than emotions.
Very much so, because it's a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice.
It's a choice. You made a choice. You made a choice to do something, and that's how you're going to do it. It's like you make a choice whether you're going to buy a car or buy a house or move from one place to the other. You made a choice. Now, the interesting thing is, as you're talking, I'm thinking, and I might be a little bit more subdued today for a little bit, because over the from Tuesday to about Saturday, various people have watched the program, and I've had various comments, and people who know me will come to me and like, oh, so how? I'm like, why don't you guys ask these questions when we are not here? Right? So I have a lot of things running through my mind. I'm trying to remember most of them. That's why I'm a little complicated. Let them come back. But one of the things that this brother had said to me was, could it be that as men growing up, like most of us in the West Indies, or most of us in the black family, or what we call the Negro family, so to speak, we didn't really have so much of fathers around. So some of us grew up with our grandmothers, some of us grew up with our grandparents, and grandpa would be out in the field doing whatever thing. And then you had this African friend of mine who told me, he says, the interesting thing is, we know that we had to take care of our family. We love our children, but we weren't very affectionate to them because that's just who we are. That's how our society was. So a lot of us men got the short end of the stick. A lot of us, not all of us. A lot of us got it because we come into marriages thinking we need to perpetuate the same way how our parents were, or if we didn't have anything to follow, we just go by the seat of our pants, so to speak. So with a man coming in, right, and then realize that maybe I'm not treating my wife right.
But you just started to interrupt you. Hold your thought.
Yeah.
Because I just want to interrupt this, and just to pick up on what you just said, or just to say what you said, or agree with what you said. What you are saying, what I hear, we really only do what we see.
What we see.
That's how I taught.
Pretty much. You do what you see.
You do what you've seen, as good as a heart you've got. Or if all you've seen is a certain model. that I've got a cold, distant father, that was the way he showed.
Right.
That's what you've seen.
Right.
So even though you've got a good intention, we could say your programming is what you've been seeing
Right.
through that male example.
And you
all
act out
your
of
life.
that program.
You act out of that program.
Now, here's the thing that I want to spin off of that after seeing all of that, because I said to this gentleman, I said, you know what? I might have made mistakes going back, rightfully said, to what I've seen based on the old program that I had, even though my intentions was to change my programming. I said, but one thing that I stuck with, I'm the last out of 4 children, and I have 4 children now, so to speak. But one of the things that I said to myself, and I didn't even remember saying it, I was about 12, 13 years old. And I said to my god sister, we were all in the yard playing, and I think something had transpired between my mother and I expected her to give me a compliment, or I expected her to hug me or say something, and she never said it. And I turned to her and I says, I don't know if my mom loves me. She says, of course your mom loves you. Why would you say such a thing? I said, because sometimes I don't know. I can't feel it. And I said, but you know what? Anytime the Lord allows me to grow up, and that's my words to her, because she reminded me of this years after, anytime the Lord allows me to grow up and have children, my children will always know I love them, because I'll tell them and constantly hug them, kiss them. And she said, yeah, but just because your mom don't hug and kiss you doesn't mean she don't love you. I said, but I needed that. So I made a decision, just like you made a decision. You never tell a woman, I love you until you meet your wife, so to speak. And I realized that as children growing up, we make decisions from what we see. But life, because we've been so programmed to the things that has been embedded in us for such a long time, that as we reach to that stage of maturity, some of those things that we so gloriously decided or plan on doing don't ever, some of it may come up, but it don't always come out right. So pretty much it's like, how do we bridge that gap? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I don't know if this is, but I'm kind of stuck up on something you just said 30
Go ahead.
seconds ago. This is it. I'm inspired here. Hold on. This is it. Remember, and you've alluded to it, I've mentioned it before. We're talking about the programming based on what your upbringing, based on your circumstances, based on your environment, your parentage. You just gave an answer on what overrides the program.
Go ahead.
Your decision and your words.
Absolutely.
You get that?
Absolutely.
That's why I was saying you said it. You said it. See that?
A decision and
because you
words,
said, now think about this. You said to your mom, when I raise my children, think about it now.
Yeah.
Just a little. I have my children. God permits, and I have my children. I'm going to love them. And I'm going to show affection to them. See? Your words. See? That's why your words are powerful. Now think about this. Today, do you love your children?
Oh man, they know it all the time.
See that?
They know it all.
You always show it. See that?
It's interesting enough that my mom said, when my mom was alive and she was living with me, and before I leave the house, I'd always call my children before I leave, hug them and kiss them and says, I love you guys, I'll talk to you guys later, right? And as I was walking out the door, my mom was on the phone talking to one of her friends, and she says, you know, it is so nice to see him telling his children how much he loves them. She said, that's so nice to see.
But she
right?
but hold on.
But she never did it.
But look at that, eh?
She never did it.
Never did
So with her seeing it, she then realized that it's something that she missed. But did she think that I didn't love her? No, she didn't think that at all. She knew that I did. She knew that I loved her very much. She was my mom, and that she did the best she could. As I got older, I recognized that. Because one of the things that my mom never did, as far as I can remember, I don't know when I was a baby what took place, but as far as I can remember, the first time I know my mom ever hugged and kissed me was the day I was leaving Guyana to come to Canada. And after then, when she came, and if I sang, she never clapped, you know. And these are certain building tools for men too, right? She never clapped. She'll just come and she'll sit and watch, and you know, if I ran and she was there, happened to see me running, watch. So long after I think when she first came in, she says, "Ma, how come you never do these things?" She said, I didn't want people to feel like I'm boasting. I'm like, you're supposed to boast, right? But I said, that's okay. But as she got older, she recognized, and she saw what I was doing with my children, she recognized at that point that this is something, it's not too late. So when I took her to some of the concerts here in Canada that I had to sing at and so forth, she'd be in the front row and she's clapping big. right?
Correct.
But a part of it in her was still the old school, because she'll turn and says, when I clap, sometimes I feel the numbness in my hand, but when I clap, it feels good.
Oh,
So she didn't know how to come in and say, I'm clapping for you. So you had to put another spin to it.
now you see, you've hit on a number of issues
Yeah.
here, or principles, is that she believed certain things.
Right.
So if you listen to people long enough, let's say your mom, she believed, well, if I compliment him too much, not only am I bragging, which is wrong in her thinking,
Right.
but also, and it's going to make it seem like I'm boasting,
Right.
but you know what? It's going to make him prideful. You see what I'm saying? So she had wrong thinking.
Wrong thinking. Definitely wrong thinking.
So the wrong thinking leads to the wrong words.
And leads to wrong actions.
There you go. Now, also, too, think about this, because you said a number of things there, is that when she, when these people then, when she saw how you're treating your children many years later, think about this now. And what most people don't realize is this. That's the fruit of what you said 20, 30 years
Years ago, yeah.
Words.
Words. It's so important.
See,
It's so
words are
important.
very-
Words are
you
very important.
changed, think about this. You changed your family's history.
Right with my words. And I'm thinking, had I said a lot of other things,
There you go. I was going to say that.
would have made a difference.
There you go. Now, suppose you had said this. Sorry to interrupt you. But suppose you had said, just because of the way you were treated, how many women, I'm going to get to that and fast forwarding, you could have said, you know what, I'm not going to have children.
Yeah.
See that? Or, if you hadn't spoken those words, that, let's say, bitterness could have risen in your heart
Correct.
and alienated you from not only your mom, but also could have caused you to perpetuate the way she expressed her love to you, to your own children. And I'm not saying, and loving mother obviously loved you a lot, but didn't have the expression.
Yeah.
See that?
It's absolutely true, because, and we still deal with men how they need to respond to women, folks. Though, don't think we're off that, because...
No, we're not, because we need to renew, we need to have men are only doing, oftentimes, what they've seen. But through this discourse, we're learning that how we can change that is we've got to make a decision. You made a decision.
Make a decision, speak
And
the
you've
words.
got to speak the right words.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Life and death is in the power of
the
your tongue.
Now, there's another thing too. As I said, my dad was he was in the house, lived with us, but he was, I call it, he was a resident father, but not an active father.
Okay.
Right? He came in, hi, how you doing? And he went on his own business. Right? Never interacted with us. And I always used to say to myself, I remember one day I was very, very sick, very, very sick. I was sick. I thought I was dying. And all he did was peek through the bedroom. He says, "You're sick. You're not feeling well." I says, "No." So, "Well, get better soon." He never come in. He never touched me. He never hugged me. Never said, "Well, I'm so sorry to hear that you're sick." He says, "Get better soon." And he's gone. Didn't see him or hear from him for the rest of the time I was sick. And I said to myself, again, if my children are sick, I'm going to be all over them like white on rice. They will know that I genuinely care and concern about their well-being and their health, and I'll do every possible thing to make sure that they're okay. But I always talk from the point of the children, never the point of, because I for some reason that was kind of a, I don't know if it was a blank or it's just a bypass, that I never paid attention to that my dad and my mom weren't very cohesive. And how my dad treated my mom, it was not always the right way, right? So I never really paid attention to that. I always paid attention to how they were treating me and how they treated us as children. And I often thought, as you rightfully say, if I paid attention to that, I might have said other words, as you're saying, that would have solidified the fact of, if you get involved in a marriage, this is how you're going to do it, and this is what you want to do, right? Not understanding too, and here's the interesting thing that is going to blow your socks off. Remember we talked about, and I'm being transparent again here, folks, and I'm glad that you're listening. We spoke about the fact that decisions being made, and how to choose and what not to choose. And I personally felt, right, this is my take on it, and people could slap me on the side of the head later on for that, but that's okay, that determining a marriage, I believe it is the man's responsibility. It says, I'm going to marry you, as opposed to a joint thing saying, let's get married. He must know, according to what the Word of God said, he must leave and cleave, because he's going now to prepare. I mean, just like what the parable spoke about. He went to prepare a place for his bride, and then he come and collect his bride and take her back. So it's never a thing of, let us get married, or her suggesting, yeah, let's get married. It's the same thing with my dad. My dad was a single child, an only child, and so was my mom. And the thing came about where this situation came up where the two parents came together and says, hey, you have a single only child, I have an only child, let's get them married. So what we call a match wedding, a match marriage. And that perpetuated into something different. Now, did it happen to all of my two brothers and so on? I don't know. I can't speak for them, that how it came about, who did what and what. I know for me, it is a conversation. Okay, let's get married. And I said, yeah, let's get married. It wasn't my decision per se, and I'm saying this for the understanding for men who are listening. It wasn't my decision to say, I want to do this. It was a case of where it says, hey, we should get married. Yeah, let's get married.
Like it's just a good idea.
Just a good idea.
Yeah, I got you.
You understand?
Yeah.
So,
I like what you said, though. If we go, let's stay on that a little bit. Because you're talking about, again, the power of decision, but also the quality of the decision.
Right.
So that it's something that it's thoroughly thought out before the decision is made.
Correct.
We're talking about a commitment here.
Right.
And it's something that you said, I will do. And also there's a want to do it.
Right.
So there's a strong commitment in this.
So, as I told my son, when he was getting married, and you know, we can play around with this as much as possible. There's always, as I always said, there's always an exception to the rule in human nature, because we're such a fallen people, right? Fallen human race, so to speak. I said to my son, when he was talking about getting married and so forth, you know, and all these big things, he said, man, Dad, there's so much work. I just want to get married and done with it. Forget this, just get married and be married and done. And I said, the interesting thing you have to understand in a marriage is, and if people look at it this way, especially men, if you choose right, now, depending on circumstances and conditions and situations, if you choose right, and your wife brings the best that she can, because most cases it's wives that who prepares the wedding ceremony, like what she wants, what she don't want, because it's her day. We just come to collect her and take her away, but she wants to make a grand entrance and a grand exit to go live with her husband. So she has she plans her stuff. And I said to him, her wedding day is what she's giving you and says, I'm giving you this. What are you going to do with it? You as the man now have the rest of the marriage to take that, and as we'd say with a garden, plant the garden nice. So if you get a good ground to work with, you sure as heck can have a wonderful garden. Right? And in some cases, we have the elopes, we have the spur of the moment thing, we have the downtown, depending on the different conditions. And sometimes for a man a thinking man, so to speak, not one who's just rushing it because, man, she's a beautiful woman, man, I have to have it, maybe we're Christians, we can't go about having sex without marriage, so let's get married, boom, gone into it. But a thinking man would probably think and say to himself, you know, here's a woman that I think match my needs, can fit my needs in the sense of work with me. She's my helpmeet that God has provided for me, because we have certain things, a lot of things in common. I mean, we do have opposite, there's some from time to time. We have a lot of things in common. So what am I taking from this now to be able to treat her as Christ treated the church? Because rightly so, the Bible says don't be angry against them, because yeah, there's sometimes when you get angry with your children themselves, much of your partner, right? So the thing is, that's part of the stuff that we never were taught. We missed, and we didn't see our parents, and our parents don't talk. Our parents back in the day shut us down a lot. So you go to your father and say, Dad, how did you meet Mom? Oh, that's none of your business.
Yeah.
There's no teaching.
Yeah, there's no teaching of that, exactly.
You know,
so the example, the modeling, the teaching, the
everything.
Yep.
It messes up a man's thinking. So now he's flashing through the dark, trying to find his way, and then boom, he sees this woman, he thinks this is his escape now to be a man. So he rushes into marriage because he wants to be a man, because this makes you a man. But you run into it, don't even know what you're running into, because someone once said to me, if you knew what marriage is all about and your responsibility,
Yep.
you stay far away from it for a very long time until you know you can handle it.
You'll be counting
right?
the cost.
You're counting the cost.
But let's go back to something you'd said maybe some time ago, a few weeks ago, which I think is well stated. In seeing a woman, do you see her as, I'm using your words, as a wife or as a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Remember you said that?
Yeah.
And so counting the cost again.
Counting the cost.
And so it's not just about her meeting your needs, but are you complementary? Because again, she's not exactly like you and shouldn't be. But do you have enough to work together?
Right.
And are you counting the cost? But there's something else you said, I think this is important, and it goes back to, children's relationship with their parents. Do we have, and all of us who are parents, do we have that relationship with our children, where we're not just a father to them or a parent to them who gave birth to them, but are we in relationship with them? Do we have communication? Do we have dialogue? Do they know they can come to you? Not just in a time of need, but is there that ongoing relationship where through that relationship they're learning?
Right.
They're being taught, about life and the things they need to be a successful, productive individual. And that will help them in their relationships, right? Because then some things you've imparted into them will help them to make right choices. So think about it. So children right now, the way they're being raised is going to affect or influence who they choose.
Absolutely.
So again, we do a disservice if parents, if we don't build the right relationship with our children.
And talk about making choices, and I have to be careful how I'm saying this because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. And it's all about choices, it's all about making the right decisions, all about looking at the right things. So not because you may feel that you're qualified or you're educated enough to make an educated decision is always the right decision. Some of it is based on your groundwork that has been taught to you, and we have made choices and mistakes along the way. The key factor for me is you as a person. I don't care what anybody else says. You as a person have to say to yourself, looking back, did I make the right choice? And if I didn't make the right choice, am I going to take responsibility for my actions of not making the right choice? And when you've gone past that, that's the only way you begin to grow. And I was saying to one person the other day, it helps to rebuild you as a person, rebuild your confidence, rebuild your insecurities, rebuild your fear of facing people. Because I went through that. I went through that period of time when my self-confidence was torn apart, my fear, of wanting to deal with anybody because I messed up, and I messed up big time. And who wants to be around me or talk with me or deal with me? And then I recognized after a while that the Father that I have, my Heavenly Father, is more than loving and shows me every single day new mercies, grace, and His love to me. And learning that from a man's standpoint and thinking, you know what, in spite of all of the things that I have done wrong, in spite of even making a vow with Him and not keeping it, and He still come back to me and says, I've given you a second chance to own up to your vow. In spite of all those things, He, along the way, has begun to teach me things that no one else could ever taught me. And even down to pastors themselves. I've never been able to speak into my life and say, this is what's happened, right? Up to that point. And then I realized God was showing me some different aspects of my life that is missing, that is blank. So I got more involved with my children at that point in time, especially my boys, and say, this was missing for me. Fill it in.
But see, through relationship.
Yeah.
So you just had two things there.
Yeah.
That you highlighted through the relationship with your Heavenly Father. It helped you to be restored and healed, right? Even emotionally, and also from guilt, condemnation, all those things. And then just the reality of your personal relationship with Him got you to where you are today.
Yes.
But then helped you in your natural relationship with your children.
With my children, absolutely.
Isn't that beautiful?
Absolutely.
But then, can I say this? Let me share a couple of things I want to say. Because just some wonderful things that you communicated today really underscore the importance of what things we need to know so we can make right choices. You emphasize love.
Yeah.
You know, make right choices, make right decisions. And so, if we don't know, so come back to again what a wife needs. She needs commitment.
Right.
So we need to know as men, well, we better be committed to our wife. We got to let her know we're committed to her. Notice women are always saying, "Do you love me?" Wife is always saying to her, oftentimes says to her husband, "Do you love me?" So there's that need of affirmation.
Right.
So we supply that affirmation, constantly letting her be assured of our commitment, letting her be assured of our love, affirmation, and commitment. But I wanted to say a few things practically. I thought about this, was some long time ago. What is the love, affirmation, affection? They have to be expressed.
Right.
They're not just abstract, but they've got to be expressed. And so I thought about it, and I wrote some things down as far as practically speaking, what we need to know.
Okay.
So if we don't know these expressions, what our love, affirmation, affection should be expressed, then our wives could be missing out on them.
Right.
And so again, it's like, going back to your analogy, it's like that garden not getting the essential nutrients
Correct.
that it needs. So when we talk about expressions of love and affection, number one, or a few of them is this. Our words need to be soft, gentle words. As husbands, as men, we can sometimes be very abrupt. You understand?
Okay.
So, and again, I'm saying this is one who has learned and still learning, right? So, we've got to let our words build her up, strengthen her, not tear her down. So sometimes, and it means then, I believe as a husband, to succeed as a husband,
Right.
we do have to be willing. We've got to be humble.
Correct.
In other words, we have to be willing to, honey, I'm so sorry. The way I said that was wrong. Would you please forgive me?
Right.
You see that? So,
Right.
again, so it's not this, I'm up here and you're down here. No, it's we're together, and this is someone you love. You asked her to be your wife, and you're joined together. You're one. So our words need to be soft, gentle words. Let your words build her up, strengthen, and encourage her. Right? Another one. I'm just going to go down this real fast.
You are.
Is we need to give her is that show kindness to her, and that includes giving her gifts. And I said this when I was working somewhere. I said, give her a gift she likes.
Right.
So that means find out what does she like.
Right.
Every woman is different. They're unique, and so showing her our kindness, give her a gift she likes. Another one is this: be quick to forgive her. In any relationship, there's going to be opportunities to be offended, and someone's going to hurt you, because the closest people are the ones with the greatest potential to hurt you. And so that's why being quick to forgive. Why I've learned over time, if I'm not quick to forgive, then I run the risk of getting bitter and resentful.
Right.
So again, we learn these things. So we learn to be kind. We learn to be giving. We learn to be forgiving. We learn to make our words be more soft and gentle.
Correct.
And sometimes women vary, right? And so you've got to know, is your wife one that, when you speak your words, you might not have said it in a harsh tone, but the way it came across to her might have been perceived that way. So so that's another one I didn't write down. We have to learn our wife.
Right.
Because, you got to learn, because she's not, no woman is identical, so their makeup is different, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, all these different things spiritually, is learning who she is. So that's a lesson. That takes time, right? Another one, we said, tell her you love her a lot. So women need to hear that. I tell them, you tell on yourself, my wife said, do you love me? I said, a long time ago, well, of course I love you. I mean, why are you asking that?
Yeah.
So again, that's the logic of a man's mind, right? Is that, listen, in my thinking, that's why sometimes I'm glad she's not here watching me. Maybe she's watching right now. But the thing is this, I said to her, when she said, well, do you love me? Of course I love you. Okay, see, there's that, she's expressing,
Right.
of course she knows I love her, but I'm telling you, there's that need for affirmation, right? And the affection. So the thing is this, the man is thinking, well, of course I love you. I married you, didn't I?
Right.
So, and the man is thinking, well, I've given it my love, I'm committed to you, and I'm not taking it back. That's what he's thinking. So when he hears, well, do you love me? What do you mean, do you love me? What kind of a silly statement is that? That's what the man's thinking.
Correct.
But then we've got to remember the way she's thinking. The way her build-up is, she needs that affirmation. So tell her you love her a lot. Affirm your love and commitment to her. Hold her. That's another one. So you got to hold her. Show her your closeness, the closeness of your heart and commitment. And what that also does when you hold her is shows your protection.
Correct.
You're protecting her, right? Look at her. So you're paying her attention. You look at her. A wife needs to know that the husband, who's the closest person on the planet to her, that he's captured by her. That's still important. Serve her. That's another one. So give her your best. Open the door for her. Be patient with her. So all of these things, it's still, the chivalry has not passed. We still need some knights in here. So men who are willing, and again, when we say this, think about this now. In this day when, of course, women are highly intelligent, women are sometimes more intelligent than men, women are working for themselves, got their own money, all these, this doesn't decry any of that. The thing is this, though, and it doesn't mean when I say open the door for my wife, of course she can open the door herself.
Right.
She's strong enough, she can do it.
Yes.
But the thing is this, when she allows me to do that for her, I'm saying certain things. It's got nothing to do with her ability or intelligence. Nothing to do with that. It's me showing her she's special.
Correct.
You see that? And I think, so those things are still, I think, so it's my serving her. Right? It's showing, the prestige, the esteem that I have towards her. Be patient with her. Okay, ask her what she would like you to do for her. We have a honey-do list. Honey, do this. Honey, do this. Every man knows that. He gets the call. Gets the call when he's out. Oh, can you pick up this from the store? And you say, of course, now we can send a text. Send me a text. Write the list. This is the list. So it's a honey-do list. Or at home, there's things to be done in the house, and sometimes we can be slow at it or quicker. But you're aware of those things that she does like and the things she doesn't like.
Correct.
Let's say most men are the garbage men. We put out the garbage.
That's right.
Most men. Okay, so most men put out the garbage. And so, and it's a delight because, and again, that's showing again that our willingness to serve.
Correct.
See that? And so, again, we grow in all these things. We develop these things. Make decisions. One of the things I believe most women like is a decisive man. And again, some of these things we have to grow into. I had to grow in these things, I'll be honest with you. Because you could have had your father in the home, but oftentimes it wasn't modeled before you so strongly about the need to be decisive. Women need to have a husband who will make a decision. Okay, just make a decision. Why? Because it's indispensable to his leadership. Right. He's providing direction and leadership for the home, and so our time is moving by real fast here. So you got to provide direction and leadership for the family, right? And so these are things we can grow in. Also, the things a wife needs is this: sharing your vision and your goals, because it will help her. Allow her to help you. Because think about this, when we said this, I might have to quit with this, that it says Adam needed a helpmeet. Someone suitable. Someone who will complement him. So doesn't it mean someone who will assist him?
Correct. And I'm glad you're going there.
So it's important for a husband, now think about this now, or would-be husband, to share his vision, his goal, we could say his life purpose. Now why some of this is so important is this. The failure to do some of these things early causes a lot of problems later on. And so we could say it this way. Suppose you have a life purpose that, let's say two separate people.
Right.
They're thinking about getting married, and the wife doesn't agree with her future husband's purpose.
Right.
Well, you got a problem right there. Because you're not going to be able to walk together.
Correct.
Because you're not in agreement, right? And then she won't be able to or be willing to assist you. Now, it doesn't mean she's not got something to do, whatever, she's got a purpose also, but it means you really won't be walking together the way you need to walk together. So that's why these things are so important. So we're going back and forth a little bit to be discussed.
I know we have just about 5 minutes, and I want you to deal with this before you go. We were talking earlier on nutrients and different things of the sort. And
these are good things.
No.
These are things what we're talking about. What a wife needs.
Right.
I've just mentioned that.
Right.
What a wife needs. Right. That you're putting these things.
Right.
And we'll pick up. I've only mentioned about half of them. I'll have to pick them up next week. So go ahead.
As I said, this is not going to end so quickly. we can continue.
No,
no. But the thing is, when you talked about it, what came to mind as one who likes to garden. I love to garden. I'm not so good at it, but I like to do it, and I like to see the fruits of my labor. The interesting thing that a man, and I'm speaking to the men now, you getting yourself together with this special someone, the special woman, to, as the Bible call her, your helpmeet. You have to understand too that the ground that you're going to plant on comes with certain nutrients, and if you don't have it, it's a waste of time you're trying to plant. It will kill every plant. So you have to make the right choices, as you rightfully say. If she is not walking side by side with you in your dreams and your goals and your aspirations, chances are she's not the right build for you, because your dreams, goals, and aspiration does not kill hers. For a matter of fact, it enhances hers, right? But if you're being told that you need to tone down a bit because I need to come up a bit, then you have the wrong partner. And most men see only one thing, and that fades eventually. And when that begins to fade, then you begin, what am I doing with you? You understand? Or she may be a woman that had a lot of money. The money drains. What am I doing with her? So you got to understand, you have to make sure that you choose the right soil to plant in.
But a woman, think about this though. It's amazing. Might have been Dr. Miles Monroe said this. So if I miss, I'm not saying I'm going to quote this exactly, but the gist of what he was saying is, if you give a woman something, think about it, she gives it back to you in a different way. So you give her a sperm, she gives you
a child,
a baby, right? Much bigger. She amplifies
it. Goes back to the type of
soil, what she is, right?
What kind of soil are you choosing?
Exactly.
Because if you give her a house, she gives you a home.
Exactly.
I remember that message.
That's right. Exactly. You give her some food, she gives you a meal.
Right. Yeah. So, but the thing is, if you don't choose the right soil, that ain't coming back to you. That is not coming back to you, because you have to know if this is the will of God for your life, first of all. Likewise, the woman needs to know that herself.
Exactly, before she says yes.
Before she says yes,
exactly.
Right? But you will always know if the man, if the man is making the right choice and the right decisions to go after what he feels is led by God for him, or his helpmeet, or his helpmate, so to speak. Then he would have known that I've chosen the right soil. So now I can not only plant, I can even build, because the foundation is good. Right?
And there's great security. Something you said.
Yes.
When you've got the right person, there is a knowing.
Yes.
Sometimes it's even hard to explain, but you just know. On the inside, you know.
You know.
There's a peace. There's a security.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when I wouldn't know what it's like to go to bed with the thought that my wife isn't faithful. I've never had that thought.
Right.
You see what? So, what can you imagine people who may have that thought?
Right.
And I wouldn't know what that is like, because I've never had that thought.
Correct.
So what I'm saying though, when you're with the right person, who's right in their thinking, right in their heart, I'm telling you, there's just a knowing. There's
an
great peace on the inside of you. And
so we just have to say 1 minute left.
Wait all the time there.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this because, and as somebody just texts us and says, this is a term now that we use back home so long ago, and once you use it, I'm like, wow, correct is right. Correct is right means that you're doing very, very well. You're right on the money, and they're enjoying the show. And we thank you so much for locking in via Streaming Praise Radio and via the Facebook.
And we'll continue next week about that list. I'm going to continue.
Yes,
about men, what we need to, what our wife needs. We'll continue on that.
Well, until next time, and until that time, right here on Streaming Praise Radio. My name is Claremont.
And I'm Pastor Carl. God's richest and best be yours. Join us next week for another edition of Rebuilding the Black Family.
Thank you for joining us today on Rebuilding the Black Family with Pastor Carl Lewis and myself, Claremont Humphrey. We trust you found this program helpful. Please give us your feedback on our Facebook page, Foundation for Life Church. Also, visit us at foundationforlife.ca, where you will find some free life-building resources. Join us next time for another edition of Rebuilding the Black Family. Until then, build your life and family on the sure foundation of Jesus Christ.